Welcome back to the channel. We have something really fun here. We have missing wood veneer, and the customer doesn't want to pay for a new piece. And the question is, can we duplicate the wood? Let's do it. If we compare the dash pieces on this Jeep to the door panel pieces, we find that they're not exactly the same anyway. So anything that we do to duplicate the wood on the driver's door will be fine. First of all, we'll buzz off all of these screws holding that on. You got to look for them. Removing the door panel is not that big of a deal, about the same kind of standard fare as we're accustomed to seeing. And our piece just slides out from around the door handle trim. There we go. Getting rid of the last few remnants of that original wood veneer. And would you look at all this super glue somebody put on there? Oh my goodness. This is the bane of my existence, having to undo what somebody else did thinking they were fixing it. So scrape off all the super glue with a single-edged razor blade. Get the bulk of it off of there. And then you'll find that as you clean it up with some acetone, when you get it down thin enough, then the acetone will have a chance to do its work and clean up the thin layer that's left. The acetone will be able to penetrate the super glue and help you get it off the surface at the last. Of course, I'm using a sander also to level this out. And then we'll follow by hand with a block sander. It's a good thing I had that additional espresso this morning. They also had super glue up on the chrome, which I managed to get off of there earlier. Now we'll clean this up and mask off again and be ready to go. Much like the leather tables that we discussed, we're going to try to arrive at a really good base coat color and then apply the darker wood grain in a translucent lacquer. So here I'm adjusting the base coat. We've got a color at least that's in the ballpark. So we're going to prime our piece, and we're also going to prime an extra piece of plastic that we'll use as a mock-up. This is a piece that I had in the shop, and there it is. Also, I've cut out some random shapes that we can use as a template. And so we're practicing on our mock-up. Adjusting some color, and I had this original color close from a guitar that I refinished. The original color, I added a little bit of amber and a little bit of orange. But because I see the darker lines in that wood grain, I'm now separating a little bit aside, and I'm adding some of the medium brown, which is actually quite a dark brown. So I'll have this dark brown for the more solid lines for the wood grain, and I'll have the more translucent and more reddish or amber blending top coat for that. And you can see how the darker color does look so much better. And now I'm blending the amber in with it. So now that we've assembled the colors and we see the relationship to one another, we see that we need more yellow in our base coat. So we go back to our mock-up and put that more yellow base coat on and put the dark lines on top of that. We're going to follow with a clear that we're going to use finally in our ending step, so we have a chance to see how all of these work together. Okay, so now we can put the yellowish base coat on our target piece. Now, to get everything stationary so that we can spray our designs, I've just decided to attach our piece to a box. We're going to use the original screws and just screw our trim right to that box. It'll hold it up there where we can work on it really well. And I don't want to be knocking this thing over either while I'm painting. So it'll be attached securely to the box, and then we'll attach the box to the table. And having such a professional setup really inspires confidence, doesn't it? Now I've drilled an angled hole in my steering wheel jig, and that's going to hold my airbrush steady. And of course we're loading up the darker brown color. I've got to tell you, it's a little bit nerve-wracking for me because I am not an artist, and so I'm a little bit tentative going in. I have to do a couple of practices here because this is the real deal. I'm getting a bit of a slow start out the chute here. I'm originally wanting not just to put a straight line on this leading edge. I'm wanting to put sort of a dog leg kind of design, and not sure exactly how I'm going to go about that. So I'm choosing from a couple of different designs, just wanting to add something a bit gnarly right there. There's already a straight line in the plastic itself, so I didn't want to follow that exactly. The curve part here is not easy either because you got to curve the paper. Speaking of the paper, the hose keeps wanting to get hung up on the edge of the paper, so that's another thing to consider. I probably should have had a longer hose and draped it over my shoulder to keep it up out of the way. So we're just getting started here, just trying to get the hang of it. I do know that I want a number of short lines below where the pull handle occurs here in the door. So we don't have much room there to really get too creative. Just a few parallel lines, I think, right there will suffice. Dirty them up a little bit so they don't look too clear cut. Look twice, spray once, right? Here again, we don't have too much room to get creative on this part, but we're soon to get there. This happens to be the cutout I was anxious to use. I'm wanting to create something that looks more like a knot. It might not look like a knot, but I'm going to try it. My idea is to take the same pattern and expand it a little bit so I have concentric lines like they emanate from one source. Now the forward part has had a chance to dry a little bit, so I can push the paper against it and get us a little bit more busy, gnarly design up in there. Now I'm aiming to make some growth patterns, and I want to expand on these growth patterns to make them relative to one another. So I'm going to find this one. Instead of making it parallel, I am turning it at a bit of an angle. And then I'm going to use the very same one and make it even more angular. So it's not the exact same pattern. So it has like a growth history to it. So now I'm wanting to change up the pattern a little bit, and I'm not really knowing how to change it because I want to make another knot. And this line wasn't the best choice, but we'll get there. I'm wanting to work myself into another knot similar to the one I created up towards the handle. Now let's go for that knot again. So that's going to be it for the dark color. We'll spin that out and then we'll clean that out of our airbrush here with a little acetone. And now we're here back to our original color, the more amber one. This is more translucent also because there's not such the concentration of stain in this one. And we'll use this color to blur the lines and make some adjustments in our pattern too. And that edge that is not masked, that's actually the top edge. So we want to make sure we catch that. You'll be seeing that edge. In fact, these lines actually wrap around that edge a little bit. And I'm finally getting this knot to look like I wanted it to begin with. Not so bad. I think knots are easier to do because there's a pattern to it, a repetitive pattern. Now the clear that I will be using is a urethane clear. I was at a manufacturing facility where they made the wood veneer, and I know that they had a clean room where they were spraying urethane. And so Several coats of polyurethane, I think, will probably duplicate what's there on that dash veneer without going to too much trouble. Several coats to get it to shine up. So I'm going to leave it just like that overnight. Here I am the next day peeling the masking. You want to peel back against itself so that it cuts. Pay close attention that the tape is not pulling clear off of our wood trim. If the tape doesn't want to come off cleanly, take an X-Acto knife and just score a line alongside that tape line. Then it'll separate better without damaging your work. This is working good though, without any extra cutting today. Now when hanging the door panel, you have to get these upholstery clips lined up in the holes and they keep falling down. It's kind of frustrating. Thank you very much, our Jeep engineers. Here's our view from a distance. And then we'll take another look from the driver's seat and see how this all matches up together. So the customer told me it looked better than the original. Thanks for watching.